Hey Aggies, it's your boy Troy Lamont Coleman again with the second edition of the Unofficial-ish Aggie Athletic Report. I'm actually going to change my name for this weekend, and hopefully it's going to stick, and we're going to go ahead with it. My man Gary Holmes suggested in a comment from the last video that I posted, or the first video, that I should go by A&T-roy. So A&T-roy. I think I'm gonna go with it. My man D Rankin, who is also a dance parent, our kids dance, and so he seconded it. So I'm gonna go with A&T-roy. All right. So last week I talked about we're gonna talk about a whole bunch of stuff. We're gonna talk about things that are facts around A&T athletics. We're gonna have some folks I'm gonna interview and talk about the different teams and things like that. So we're gonna do a lot of stuff here. And I'm also going to tell you that there's going to be some foolishness going on in here too. I'm going to rant some things and talk about some things that are just foolishness around A&T athletics, and some of the things, of course, some of you I think know that I've done here in the recent past. Man, I have gotten really, really hooked on A&T athletics. I will tell you that I'm also a Steelers fan, and I have cut back on watching, listening, paying attention to Steelers stuff, and put a whole lot more focus on the A&T stuff. So here we go with a few facts around what's going on in Aggie land around athletics. Of course, we all know, and I will tell you, I got a few people that pick at me around, things that I do and say, and I will tell you, one of the trash talkers over there in that school in Durham, he always tells me that, I'm not gonna say his name, but he always tells me that I'm gonna go and cry in my car for whatever reason. And I'm gonna tell you, I really want to go cry in my car when they cancel football and fall sports for this year. That said, I absolutely think it was the best choice. Our kids' health and safety is much more important than the entertainment that we get from it. Now, I will say from that, though, that there are really some not so good, or I would say bad things that are happening related to the athletes, some of them. Some of our seniors that were going to be on our football team this year, they may not get to participate in football anymore at the college level for whatever reason. Maybe they decide that they don't want to come back for another year, or whatever might happen. So that's just really not a good thing. I will tell you that HBCU Game Day did an interview with our athletics director, Earl Hilton, and it's a pretty moving interview with him. And I thought that guy was going to cry on the camera. He came really close. And related to that, I do want to mention some of the sources that I have I'm going to be using for what I do here. In addition to people who are in the know about A&T athletics outside of the school, HBCU Game Day. Man, I think it's a great resource, and they are getting a whole lot of information around athletics, not just at A&T, but HBCU athletics. My man SJG, Stephen J. Gaither, started HBCU Game Day. I don't know exactly when and all that stuff. But he's a Winston-Salem State alum. That's, of course, where I'm from. I'm from Winston-Salem. He also has a guy on there from a school in Durham called Wally Pick. I will tell you, I think he is the GOAT of video commentation. He can his comments and the way he words things on his videos and his attitude, I think they're second to none. I'm going to let him know that I did this video and let them know let you all know who they are. Another source that I have and I use is this website, or this, I guess it's a comment board. They call it Pro Boards, I think. It's called Blue Death Valley. There's a guy on there named Born Thriller. That's what his name. That's what he goes by. Man, I forgot his whole name, but his first name I think is Samaja. I'm actually going to get him on here and interview him, hopefully here in the next few videos. Man, there's a lot of information, and people talk about a lot of different subjects around A&T athletics on BlueDeathValley.com. So if you put in bluedeathvalley.com, it'll come up, and you can actually sign up on it, or you can actually look at just individual threads of subjects that people have put on there. So Blue Death Valley is another one. Of course, the News and Record, Greensboro News and Record, is another source that I might use to go along with some of the folks in the Aggie Athletic Foundation. They are pretty close, and of course we have folks up there in Greensboro that are pretty much in the know. Some of them retired or whatever, and they are able to go around and watch practices and all those kinds of things. So those are a few of the sources that I'll have as I do these videos every week. Let me give you a few factual items. Don't know if you've heard of this thing called HBCU Heroes. What it is George Lynch, and I cannot remember the young lady's name. Let me look here real quick. I'm gonna have to get a teleprompter at some point. But let me look here and see. I can't remember her name. I don't want to leave her out. She teamed up with George Lynch. If you remember George Lynch's name, he's a former NBA player, played with the Lakers, and I think he has at least one championship ring. But he also went to the school over there in Chapel Hill and played basketball there. So the young lady's name is Tracy Pennywell. And so what they did, as a part of what they did, and I can't tell you all of the things related to it, they put together a program where they are providing laptops or computers to athletes at HBCUs. So A&T actually, from what I read in the article, received 15 Intel NUC computers for our athletes to use. Because sometimes athletes just don't have those things. And so, they're helping HBCUs with computers. I think that's a great thing. So remember that. Of course I'm going to forget here. HBCU Heroes. Let me talk a little bit about football. I really didn't know what I was going to do about football and any other sports after they were canceled for the fall season. But I still think I want to do this. So a few important things. We were actually ranked in the preseason top 25 in several different ranking areas. And I won't name them all, but I know there are at least 2 or 3 where we were in the top 25. And I'm gonna tell you what's really significant about that. It's this. At least for the last 5, maybe 6 years, our football team has been ranked in the top 25 over that whole span of 5 or 6 years. Never been done in HBCU football. It's a huge issue around just how consistent we've been in these last 5 or 6 years. For some of you that have seen some of my posts on Facebook and some of those trash talk groups, you've seen me say that we're on the greatest run ever in HBCU football. And there are 8 or 9 different things that I've listed that talk about and show that this is the best football team and the best run of any HBCU football team ever. And let me say this, after segregation. So we might be able to go back before segregation and see some things where before the kids were able to start going to the PWIs, but after that, there's never been a run like this ever in HBCU football. And what I think I'm going to do is at some point I'll probably list them all out. Maybe the next report. Our football team this year, in my opinion, but not just in my opinion, really based on some facts that I have. What I've done is I've gone through all of the players that are listed on our website on ncataggies.com. So remember that, ncataggies.com, a great source of information for where you can get information about A&T athletics. And of course, last week I'll mention some of the things that they put on there, and then maybe you can just go and you can go and look and read the entire articles or all of the information on the website about what I've talked about. So I don't think I mentioned that in my initial remarks, that NCAT Aggies is also a source of information for what I'll be doing here. So what I've done from a football standpoint, and of course it won't matter for this year, but I want to let you know the significance of what we have going on in Aggie land around football. Man, I'm going to talk about basketball a little bit, but from football standpoint, from last year's team, we're going to have 11 returning starters who were ranked either first, second, or third in the MEAC All-MEAC on the All-MEAC All-MEAC football team. So 11. I don't believe we've ever had that number of players that were coming back to play for us in the following year. So that's half of our starting offense and defense. Now, I will say that one of those players, it would have been 12, but our kicker, Noel Ruiz, who had satisfied his undergrad requirements and was going to be getting his degree, wanted to do a master's program that A&T did not have, and so he transferred to Georgia State. So they would have been 12 as opposed to 11. But man, that is a big deal. 11 first, second, or third team all conference players on our team. Of course, Jermaine Martin was one of those. He's coming back, and I'll just hit a few of them here. Our offensive line, which we were having 3 of our starting 5 offensive linemen coming back, who were first, second, or third team All-MEAC. Of course, we were going to have 4 out of 5 returning starters on our offensive line. Defensive wise, I won't go into it. I'll just tell you that there are 11 of them coming back. Now, in addition to that, maybe some of you know about or understand the whole star rating system. And the way I'll kind of point it out is you hear about these kids that are 5 stars and 4 stars and 3 stars and that kind of stuff. So as I understand it, maybe I'll get some expertise on here more than what I have, is kids go to camps and they do these different things, and the rating agencies, and I'll just name 3 of them, 24/7, Rivals, and Scouts. Those are the 3 that I know of. I looked across all 3 of those for all of our players that show on our website right now, and found out their star ratings. And if they ranked, I would typically choose their highest star rating in keeping my analysis, or I would just do both or whatever. So this year, on the team that was coming back this year, we had 26. That's a big number. 26 players who were either ranked 2, 3, or 4 stars by the rating agency. I'm going to venture to tell you that we've never had that many players ranked in the star rating systems that is what we were going to have coming back this year. And it's a big reason why I've said that this was the most talented team that we've ever had at North Carolina A&T State University. I think our coach, Coach Washington, would agree with that. Matter of fact, I saw Richie Kittles. If you remember Richie, he was the defensive MVP of the Celebration Bowl in 2018. Unfortunately, Richie tore his ACL in fall camp right before the season, and so he didn't play last year. But Richie was scheduled to come back, but he was going to be a 5th-year senior. So we will see if that impacts him down the road for the next year, if we're able to play football. So 26 2, 3, or 4-star players were going to be on this team this year. 2 of them were transfers. DJ Crossan, who played over at Dudley High School, and Michael Salahundren, I know I messed his name up. He transferred from Pittsburgh. He was like the top-rated athlete running back in the Washington, D.C. area when he graduated from school a couple of years ago, I think. But DJ Crossan played at Dudley, went to Virginia Tech, and decided he was going to come to A&T after a year or so of being there. They were both ranked 4-star by one of the 3 rating agencies. Most of the kids that we were going to have that were 2, 3, and 4-star were 3 stars. And then we had maybe 5 or 6 that were rated 2 stars. Now, some people will say, yeah, the star rating doesn't matter. It just depends on what you do when you get there. And I agree with that to a certain degree. I guess I'll say 99%. Well, no, we'll come back. 90%, it really doesn't. It doesn't necessarily matter. Matter of fact, I want to take percent off of it. That's not all that's important. And here's why I'll say that. I'm going to name 3 players that I think if you go look, they were not star rated. And when I name them, you're going to say, oh yeah, I see what you're saying. The star rating doesn't necessarily mean anything. And we'll start with the first one, Tariq Cohen. The second one, Brandon Parker. The third one, Daryl Johnson, DJ, who's now with the Buffalo Bills. I wish he had gone to Pittsburgh. I think if you go back and look, that you'll see that none of them were star rated. And how about they ended up in the NFL? So, but all of that said, the star ratings are actually an indicator of, how good or a player might be. And so, man, they're a big deal out here in the sports world, college sports world. We see that there's a kid who decided he said he's going to go to Howard University. He's a 5-star basketball player. We have a transfer at A&T, Blake Harris, who transferred from North Carolina State in basketball, who's 4-star. So the star ratings do play a role in some level of indication of how good a player is. I'll also say that we've had players at A&T who have been 4 stars. I don't know that we've had a 5-star, but we've at least had 1, maybe 2 4-stars that I know about that they could barely get off the bench. I was really surprised. Me and some of my boys were like, oh my gosh, you gotta be kidding. But so it doesn't necessarily mean anything, but at the same time, it does mean some things. As you look across our team, you can see, or you'll see, if I might list them all the next time. You'll see how good they are in terms of what they've done for us. So yeah, 26 players that are 2, 3, or 4 star. We're going to have a pretty loaded team. And let me say this about that, some more detail about that. Quarterback, we have both of our primary quarterbacks that we're going to be vying, I think, for the starting quarterback position were a 2-star and a 3-star. Jermaine is a 2-star. We had a kid transfer from Wake Forest, Courtney McKenzie, McKinley, who transferred from Wake Forest, was a 3-star. Offensive line-wise, our left guard is a 3-star. Our center is a 3-star. Our right guard is a 2-star. We've got wide receivers that were 2 and 3-star. And man, I'm not gonna be able to remember all these names, but Corey Banks, who's scheduled to come back. He's a 3-star, transfer from the University of South Carolina. We had a kid transfer from Marshall, who's a 3-star. He was number 85, I can't remember his name right now, who was back on kick returns with Corey. So he had a few returns. We had a kid who was out, Demondre, I can't remember his last name. You can see it on the website. He's listed as a 2-star. Let me see who else. Maybe I'm missing somebody and I'll remember him. Oh, Ahmed Ba, 6'4", transferred, I think, from Rutgers. He's gotten hurt the last couple of years. He's got a little playing time, but he's gotten hurt. He was out all last year. He was a 2 or 3-star. I'm forgetting one here. His name is, oh, help! Oh man, the phone fell now. I'm gonna tell you, we got some meager equipment here. You'll crack up laughing if you see how we're doing this thing. So let me see. Let's talk about the wide receiver. Oh man, I can't remember the last guy. I know his name is. Oh. Prestige Edwards from Charlotte, East Mac. He was rated a 2-star, 6'5". So, we got all those receivers, and that isn't even naming probably our best returning receiver, Zachary Leslie, or Ron Hunt. They both caught touchdown passes in the Celebration Bowl. Doesn't even name them. And I think we got some pretty good up-and-comers that are going to be behind them that are going to push for some good playing time. We'll see how that goes. Our tight end, who's really a receiving tight end. Matter of fact, most people probably call him a wide receiver. Quinzel Lockhart. He's a former two-star, transferred from Navy. Quinzel was just a redshirt sophomore, I think. So we're going to have him for a few more years. Let's cross over to the defensive side. Man, let me tell you. Our defensive end on the left side, or the right side, Jermaine, oh my gosh, I cannot remember his last name. So y'all don't shoot me for not remembering all this stuff. I don't have a teleprompter. That's what I really need. But Jermaine over there on the left side, former three-star, transferred from Appalachia. We had two transfers. So we had a kid transfer from Coastal Carolina, three-star defensive tackle. We had Robert Porche, Jr., transfer from Virginia Tech, former three-star, the other defensive tackle. That doesn't even mention the fact that number 52, I can't remember his name either. You can look him up on the website. Of course, this is just to give you some good indications. He'll be returning. Man, that guy, last year, he made a lot of noise on the defensive line. He's number 52. On the other side, defensive end, we're going to have Devin Harrell back. Devin isn't rated, but man, he's a great football player. He had 7.5 sacks last year. And I'll tell you, our defensive line, we rotate them quite a bit. So, you know, none of them I think you'll find is like a full-time player. And that's great in terms of having a lot of bodies that we'll be able to put out there, and they're all pretty well, they're pretty good at what they do. We also have I think he's like 6'6", 260. He was a freshman last year, true freshman. Came to us from California. He was also a three-star. We'll see how all that plays out. Linebackers, oh my gosh. So all three of our starting linebackers are back. And matter of fact, I'm going to say four. We had Alex Fumba, who transferred last year from, I can't remember the name of the community college, but he transferred to A&T and he started, did really well. But man, we had a true freshman out of Mallard Creek High School that came to A&T, and he turned it out. He has said on Twitter that his goal is to be the MEAC Defensive Player of the Year. And I told him, you know, academics and athletics, he has a good chance. So I can't remember his name either. Don't get me for not remembering all these names. You can go look them up. But we have all four of our primary linebackers back this year. I understand we have a stud freshman that's coming in out of South Carolina that might push for some playing time himself. But the beauty of it is, the biggest deal is we've got four starters, or mostly starters, that'll be back. And plus it looks like we got some good kids that are right there with them and behind them that will be good backups for them. The defensive backfield, cornerbacks and safeties. So, of course, Mac McCain will be back. Well, we hope he'll be back. Well, he was going to be on this team, let's say that. He was going to be on this team. Of course, Mac last year was coming off an ACL from the year before. But as I understand, he's been working hard, working to get himself back in a place, you know, top ability of whatever it is, I guess, top ability or get him back to a place where he was before. We have Amir McNeil on the other side. Man, he's a scrappy dude. He takes nothing from anybody. Of course, it can get him in trouble. He can be a little hot-headed. Of course, I think some of you know that. But Amir is a baller. I would like for you to go and look at the Charleston Southern game and see the sacrifice that Amir made as a football player. Matter of fact, it actually started at Duke at least. He may have been injured before that, but he had some fingers that were injured, as I understand it. He was wearing a hand cast. I think at the Duke game, you'll see that Amir was in a lot of pain, quite a bit, out there playing. At the Charleston Southern game, how about he started with a cast on his wrist, down over his fingers on his hand. And when they went in at halftime and came back out, the cast was up all the way above his elbow, down to across his fingers. And he played that way. A mere sacrifice for this football team. Now, in the backfield, Najee Reams was supposed to be back. He was our starting free safety. Can't remember his name, Jones. I think his last name is Jones. He actually started the Celebration Bowl as our rover or strong safety. Let me go back to linebackers. We also have Stephen Davis Jr., who is the son of former running back Stephen Davis in the NFL. But Stephen Davis Jr. is he's kind of a hybrid kind of player for us. He's 6'3", 215, 220, maybe 225, and he plays defensive end. He played defensive end last year. He played linebacker. He also played rover. Stephen is all right. So back again. Our camera keeps falling on us, but we're gonna stick through this thing and figure out a better way next time. Again, we're low budget here, but we're gonna give you some good information. So I was finishing up on Stephen Davis. All around kind of player. Plays some defensive end, linebacker, and rover safety. Strong safety / rover. Some more on the defensive backfield. Najee Reams was scheduled to be back. He was our starting free safety. The Jones kid, I still can't remember his name. He was our starting rover in the Celebration Bowl, and he played quite a bit near the end of the season. He had been hurt during the season. But here's the kicker on this thing for me. DJ Crossan came in as a transfer. He's a former 4-star that I mentioned before. So he's probably going to play cornerback, maybe safety. We'll see. Of course, these are some of my projections based on what I've seen and heard from the coaches. But Michael Salahundran, and I'm going to get his name here. I'm probably going to apologize to him. He's going to probably be mad at me if he sees this. He's a former 4-star from Pittsburgh. He was a running back, but he's also a defensive back. And so, as I understand it, they actually have him listed as an athlete, meaning he might play running back. He's actually been good at returning either kicks or punts, and he's played cornerback. But I expect he's going to probably play one of those safety positions, whether it's free safety or strong safety. So our defensive backfield was looking very good for this year. And so I was really high on this team and thought that they could be really special. We were going to North Dakota State and we were going to Liberty, and I'm going to tell you, I don't think either one of those games would have been a pushover, either from the FBS school Liberty or from the pretty dominant, very much dominant North Dakota State team that's won the FCS National Championship. I think 8 of the last 9 years. They're undefeated across 3 or 4 seasons now. We weren't going to be a pushover when we went to either one of those places. All right, so let me switch over to basketball. Oh, before I leave, I do want to let you know that Jermichael, oh man, of course I will forget his name here, but I got it. I will get it. Hang on just a second. Jermichael Baldwin. Jermichael actually played for Savannah State, but I think some of you know, or many of you know, that Savannah State moved back down to Division II football last year, and they moved to the SIAC. And so Jermichael transferred to A&T. He didn't play last year. He's a punt. He's a returner, I think kick and punt returner, and he's also a wide receiver. He transferred to A&T last year, didn't play last year, but was looking to play this year. Unfortunately, Jermichael's father passed, not this Saturday, but last Saturday. I believe he was 45, and he had some issues, I think, with bronchitis. So asking for your prayers and condolences for Jermichael and his family, and if you know him or get to know him, give him some A&T love. Okay, so that's it. I think I'm going to talk about for football. Let's switch over to basketball for just a little bit. A couple things we have, a few things we have. In addition to, I think, what has been a great hire in our new coach. I think he, because of his attitude and how he tends to want to play the game and how he wants to do the things that we do both on the offensive and the defensive end, man, we might have a gem here. Of course, we never really know. Of course, every coach comes in and sounds good and talks about the things they want to do and how they want to operate, but we still just have to wait and see. A few things we have going on at A&T in terms of basketball. Of course, we're going to have back our starting point guard, who actually is the leader at A&T in assists and also in the NBAC. He'll be back. I'm going to remember his name here in a minute. Y'all going to laugh at me so much for forgetting all these names, right? So he'll be back. We have the 4-star Blake Harris. Of course, I do remember his name, right? He's coming back, or he was going to be playing this year, and hopefully he will. And I'll talk about the sports here in a second. Blake is supposed to play this year. Man, he looks to be a very good point guard, and him being on the court at the same time with our starting point guard, whose name I'm going to remember in a minute. Man, it's going to be a tough deal for people to deal with. Of course, we still have Quay Parker. He's supposed to be coming back, can jump out of the gym, and has actually improved from what I can tell his shooting, especially from three-point range. But here's the big deal for me. Wow, I don't think A&T has ever had on its team two players that are 6'11" or above. Harry Maurice was supposed to be coming back, 6'11". He was a true freshman last year. He got some playing time. Harry needs some work and strength, and I think the biggest deal for Harry is his confidence to make that flip over to, man, I'm the biggest, baddest kid on the floor here. If he can make that flip and get a little bit more strength, I think Harry is going to be a great asset for us. But here recently, we had a kid named David Greer who came to A&T from community college. Interesting thing about David is he's 7'1", one of those. Different places have him different heights. He's 7 feet or 7'1", and he didn't play basketball in high school. Matter of fact, he went to the military, as I understand it, and he was too tall, and so he wasn't able to make it in the military for his height. And he worked at McDonald's. That was really funny to me, because how about if I went to a McDonald's and there's a 7-foot guy working the drive-through or working in the McDonald's? I'm sure I'm gonna laugh quite a bit. But the good thing about David is, though he didn't play high school basketball, he went to community college, and he's learned how to play basketball. It looks like. Of course, I think he hadn't played a lot, so he's going to be a bit of a project. But it looks to me like he's really working on his game. He did some academy work here recently, and he posted on Twitter that he thanked them for helping him to learn how to shoot. The video we see of him is he looks to have gotten better over time. But to having a 6'11" and a 7-foot or 7'1" player on our team, this is the first we've ever had. And so, that I know of anyway. Matter of fact, there might have been some in the past. They might not have been all that great of players. And of course, we'll still see how Harry and David do. But yeah, 7 foot and 6'11" to go along with a 4-star, the leading assist man in the conference. At A&T also, Quay Parker. We got a mid-range guy that, man, he is one of the best mid-range players I've seen in HBCU football. Basketball. We got who I call the babyface assassin, Fred. He was a true freshman last year, so got him coming back. We got a few other kids coming back, and so A&T basketball, in my opinion, is looking up even more than what we had this year. I'm so disappointed that we didn't get to continue the tournament because I think we were gonna be hard to beat. I think, matter of fact, I think the biggest competition we probably would have had would have been Norfolk. We just didn't have a good game, a very good game over in Durham at the end of the season. Matter of fact, I'm gonna say it here, they got lucky in a lot of ways. So I really am disappointed that we didn't get to finish the season and see what those guys could do. Let's talk a little bit about baseball. And I'm almost gonna be finished here. There's a gentleman by the name of Jim, he went by Jim, but James Robinson. He was a Negro League star. And so he was featured in a Toyota Highlander commercial. He's an Aggie. So there's some conversation, this is on Blue Death Valley, but there's some conversation about honoring him in some way at A&T. And they just threw this out, and I'll just throw it out there too, naming the baseball field after him, or some level of recognition for Mr. Anderson or Robinson, goes by Jim, and being a Negro League baseball star and also being an Aggie. All right. Well, I think I'm at the end of what I'm going to do for this episode of the Unofficial-ish Aggie Athletic Report. I will say that next time it's probably going to be a little bit more, you're going to see some things that will be interesting. I'm not quite sure how I'm going to go about doing this since we have all these sports that aren't going to be occurring now. Here's what I also wanted to say. HBCU Game Day also did a video, or they have an episode, but the MEAC news conference for the canceling of the fall sports. And so in there, if you go and watch it, if you just go to HBCU Game Day, they got their own YouTube channel. You'll see the MEAC news conference if you haven't seen it around canceling fall sports. But man, they talk about some more details around what the decision making was and who all's involved and all those kinds of things. They talk about winter sports and where they are with maybe the winter sports, and they name the winter sports, of course, men's and women's basketball, indoor track and field, and I think women's bowling, the three sports that they named for winter sports. They also had a little conversation, and I think there was a question too around the possibility of moving the fall sports to the spring. There's still conversation and decisions to be made around all of those things. But here's what I'll say about that. If this country doesn't get itself together and start doing those things that will help this virus to dissipate or go away, who knows what's going to happen. And when I say those things, I mean wearing masks when you're around people, staying 6 feet or more away from other people, mask or not, and washing your hands. 3 simple things. But if this country doesn't get itself together and get on the same page about doing those things, this virus, based on what we've seen so far, where it doesn't act like the flu and it's seasonal, it's going to continue. So I would say to you Aggies and anybody else who see this video, if you're not doing it, you're part of the problem, because you could be passing it and keeping it going. Okay? Don't be mad at me. Don't shoot the messenger. Just take the message, hopefully, and act on it. So that's all I have for this week. I think I'm pretty sure I forgot something, because I don't have any notes at this point in time. This is pretty much an off the cuff kind of thing. So I'm gonna say until next week, I'll figure out how I'm gonna handle going forward. I have talked to a few people around, interviewing them, maybe through Zoom, and then we put it on the report. So we'll see how that goes. So I'll say it again, as I said before, This is your boy, A&T-roy, signing off. Aggie Pride.